Yeah, my name's Jane. I'm the training and events coordinator for Zero Carbon Cumbria, which is a part of Cumbria Action for Sustainability. We've also got on the call, we've got Maria. Maria is our project officer for Cold to Cozy, and we've got Dave as well, Dave Mann, and he's our home energy advisor. So what we are doing here is we're going to cover why do we tackle home energy savings. So we're going to look at why might you do that? What are the reasons? There's three key reasons that you might do that, and yeah, we'll cover that quickly with you to start off with, and then focus in the main then on what quick fixes can you do. So this session tonight is about quick, simple, and easy fixes. That's not what we're not covering here is anything to do with retrofitting buildings or renewables or the larger scale changes. They are going to be covered in our next series of webinars. We'll then move on to some case studies from Dave. Dave's one of our home energy advisors, as I said, and he visits homes regularly. So he's going to share a few case studies with us that put in action these quick fixes. And then, as I've said, questions and answers. Yeah, please use the chat. Next slide, please. Thank you. So yeah, introduction. That's what I've said. Looking at energy saving, quick wins. Bigger home energy improvements projects will be looked at later webinars. Give you those details at the end. So there's three key reasons why you might tackle home energy. It's better for your health, better for your pocket, and better for the planet. And I'm going to hand over to Maria now. And Maria is going to give us a few more details around those three headings of health, pocket, and planet to start off with. Over to you, Maria.
Thank you very much. Good evening, everyone, and thank you for joining us. The first reason why we all want to save energy is that it's better for your health. Cold weather and cold homes can be very harmful, as the cold weather weakens the immune system, can increase the risk of blood pressure, thickens your blood, lowers body temperature, and can increase risk of high blood pressure, heart attacks, strokes, and can adversely affect long-term conditions. So looking at that little temperature chart that's on the right of your screen, the NHS and the Energy Savings Trust all say that you should heat your home to a comfortable temperature around about the 18-degree mark. This also can vary with the amount of mobility a person has. So if you're less mobile or you spend a lot of time sitting down, you may need to have that temperature a little bit higher. Also, during the colder months, people are tempted to crank up the heating when they first come in from work or when they get up in the morning. This can be counterproductive. It won't heat your home any quicker, and it will cost you more in the long run. So it's better to set the timer on your room controls or your boiler to make sure that your rooms are warm when you get up in the morning or when you arrive home from work. And there are many gadgets that you can buy to help with those heating controls. Next slide, please. Second reason for saving energy is that it's better for your pocket. Prices have risen exponentially over the last 3 years. And as it says in the slide, you will find that a bigger percentage of your salary may well be taken up with extra energy costs. If you're familiar with the price cap, it changes every 3 months. It went up 1% in January, and it's likely to go up again in April. So now is a really good time to check your energy tariff. If you've not changed it for a while, it's a good time to look at switching to a fixed tariff, maybe for 12 months. Or 18 months, somewhere in that region, to help you save money when the price cap goes up again. At the moment, your electricity price, your tariff, should be just under 25 pence per kilowatt hour, and your gas tariff should be 6.5 pence per kilowatt hour. There obviously are standing charges that you have to pay, and we can't do anything about that at the moment. But you can do something about the rate that you're paying per kilowatt hour on your electricity and your gas. One thing that tends to confuse people, does the energy cap mean that my energy costs are capped? The short answer to that is no. Energy capping only limits the price of the unit cost of energy. The more units you use, the more you'll pay. Okay, next slide, please. So the third reason for saving energy is that it's better for the planet. You'll see from the slide the breakdown of carbon emissions for Cumbrian residents. I'm going to skip through this one quite quickly because obviously the more energy we use, the more carbon we use. If we reduce energy, we reduce the amount of carbon. It's better for Cumbria and it's better for the planet. Thank you. Next slide, please. So this slide, we're going to want everybody to have a little think about this. Here's a standard house. Where do you think that you lose the most heat? And I'd like you to possibly put your answers in the chat if that's okay. Do you think you lose it more through the roof, through the walls, through the windows, through the floor, or anywhere else? So I'll give you a couple of minutes while you put some answers in the chat, and then I'll give you the answer. So I can see quite a few people are putting roof and walls. Francis has said drafts. All good answers. Let's have a look at the next slide. So there's your answer. You lose 25% of your heat through the roof, 10% through the windows, 15% down through the floor, 35% goes out of your walls. That probably surprises most of you, but that is where you lose most of it. The 15% of drafts is what we've highlighted because those are the quick, easy fixes that we're going to talk about later today. So thank you everyone for that. Next slide, please. So next, we've got a slide of an energy performance certificate. Most houses will have an energy performance certificate. If you want to know if your house has one, we will put into the chat how to get hold of one. You basically go on a gov.uk website and type in find my energy performance certificate. If your house has been bought or rented in the last 10 years, you will have one. And this gives you an idea of how your house is performing, and it will also give you some ideas on how you could make it better. If your house hasn't got an energy performance certificate, again, if you go on the gov.uk website, it will help you find a local energy assessor who will come around to your house and do a full check for you. I don't know, Dave, you can help me on this. It's about between 50 and 70 pound for an EPC.
Yeah, it's about 50 to 75 pound, depending on where you are and who you get to do it.
Okay, thank you. Sorry.
That's what I was going to say. So it costs money, but it's not that expensive.
Okay, next slide, please. How is my house performing? One good way to check how your house is performing is to get a smart meter, which is a really good, useful piece of kit. Some of the reasons why you should consider getting one: it helps you keep a close eye on how much energy you're using and what it's actually costing. It help you work out how to save money, and it will give you an energy bill that's based on what you've actually used and not an estimate. There have been problems in Cumbria because of the poor signal, but we're hoping that over time the energy suppliers will sort out their infrastructure so that we can all get a really good signal and be able to use a more efficient smart meter. Next slide, please. So we're going to look at some quick fixes. What can we do? We're going to look at 3 quick fixes. We're going to look at how we can fix some of these issues. We're going to look at being more frugal, and we're also going to look at some smart technologies that will help us save money. Next slide, please. So the first thing I would say to do is to check the whole house for drafts. Go right round and check every door, every window, even your loft hatch, and see where we're getting the drafts. There are a lot of quick fixes on the market, little draft excluders that go at the bottom of the door, that go round the window. Even check your keyholes and your letterboxes, because we can lose a significant amount of heat through those places. And there's really easy quick fixes that you can do yourself to fix those. We do carry there is a product called a chimney sheep as well, which can go up your chimney if you have an open fire. Obviously not when you're using the open fire, to save drafts coming down your chimney. We also recommend using thermal back curtains or thick curtains, keeping them drawn during the darker nights, but also opening them and letting the sunlight in during the day. I would also try and make it a family affair, playing energy saving games with the children in the family and get them to spot where the energy is being wasted. It's actually Energy Saving Week this week, and there is a website called Energy Savings Week 2025 with a lot of event information on something called Twinkle, and there's lots of games that you can play with your children that help you look at energy saving. Next slide, please. Another quick fix is to look at keeping the person warm rather than the room. And there are lots of ways of doing that, including layering up, but also thinking about things like a heated throw. If you're sitting watching television, or if you're less mobile, a heated throw is a really, really good way. It wraps right around you and it costs pence per hour to run, so it's cheaper than having the heating on full blast. Also think about where you've placed your furniture in the room. If you've got a sofa up against the radiator, you're not helping that radiator work efficiently. You need probably about a 12-inch gap between any furniture and the radiator to make sure that it's working as efficiently as it could do. So always think about where you can be more frugal. Hot water, we also spend quite a lot of money heating our water. So thinking about things like running the tap when you're washing dishes, changing from showers to baths. And if you are having a shower, keep it down to about 4 minutes. That will save you an awful lot of money over the course of the year. Lighting is another one. Try and use LED light bulbs wherever possible. If you've got LED bulbs right through the house, you'll save probably about £12 a year. Doesn't sound a lot, but all these little things do add up over time. And get into the habit of switching lights off when you leave the room. And I know that children leave lights on all the time, so you have to drill it into the kids to turn the lights off when they leave the room. Thank you. Next slide, please. More quick fixes. One thing I would stress to everybody is to look at your appliances and turn them off, especially smart TVs, games consoles, even your phone chargers. They're what we call energy vampires. They suck in the energy even during the night. Smart TVs are constantly downloading information, so make sure that when you go to bed at night that you switch everything off and ideally unplug them. Think about when you're doing your laundry, try and do your washing at a little lower temperature. Try to avoid using a tumble dryer if you possibly can. We like to recommend dehumidifiers because they not only take the condensation and the moisture out of the air, they also help dry your clothes more quickly. And as well as that, you can now get heated airers that don't cost all that much and only cost about 7p an hour to run, and they're a lot more energy efficient than running a tumble dryer. Next slide, please. Using smart technology can also help you save quite a lot of money. I've mentioned already smart meters. They come with a small in-home display which tells you how much energy you're using, and that can help you decide when to turn the heating up or off, or turn the TV off, and help you keep a closer eye on what energy you're using. But I'm sure Dave will back me up on this. Understanding your heating controls can help you use your system more efficiently and help save some of that energy. If you have electric storage heaters, there is an Economy 7 fact sheet that's available, and we'll put a link in the chat to that one as well. Slide, please. A quick look at energy appliances. If you're considering upgrading your energy appliances, or if your washing machine is broken and you're now looking for a new one, if you look at the chart on the right-hand side there, you'll see a breakdown of how energy efficient models are. Try and go for an A or A+ rated model, whether it's a washing machine, a fridge freezer, or a cooker. They may be a little bit more expensive than the lower rated ones, but they will save you money in the long run. The Which magazine has just recently produced a list of running cost of home appliances, and you will be really surprised by some of the findings, and we'll put that link in the chat, how much your appliances cost to run. And even something as simple as a fridge freezer, because it's on all the time, does tend to use a fair bit of electricity, so it's worth having a look at all your appliances. Next slide, please. Any questions? Okay. Without further ado, if you do have any questions, please put them in the chat and we will try and answer them a little bit later. I'm now going to hand over to Dave Mann, who's our home energy advisor, and he is going to explain what he does during his home visit and give you some case studies of how he's actually helped people. So without more ado, I'll hand over to Dave. Thank you.
Thank you, Maria. Hello, everyone. Nice to meet you all. So, can I have the next slide, please? So, we, as home energy advisors, we go into people's houses and we offer them very general heating and energy advice to do with their central heating system and their energy usage, and look at how their appliances are costing them money. So I've kind of chosen 3 examples which we can go through, and it just shows the various things that how you can save money and which things are causing you to lose heat throughout your property. So example 1, we've got a 3-bedroom semi-detached house. The house does not retain heat and the bills seem high. This was the client's comments when she applied for the Call to Cosy home visit. So, as it's already been stated, you lose 25% of your heat through your loft. So we always check the loft. The findings in the loft were the insulation depth was 150 millimeters or 6 inches. The insulation was disturbed during work upgrades and not refitted. So the client had had some work done in her bathroom, and the plumber had been up in the loft and he hadn't relaid the loft insulation. And I also noticed while I was up there that the loft hatch was also uninsulated. So the remedies for things like that are quite simple. Obviously, for the depth, because the current standard is 270 millimeters, so that's about 10 or 11 inches. So it's quite easy just to apply for a grant to upgrade your loft insulation. If you've got a property that's got an EPC of between D and G, you can do that through the Great British Insulation Scheme, which is run by the energy companies. And they could potentially put another layer of insulation on top of the insulation that you've already got up to the required standard. The disturbed insulation needed to be refitted down because basically that was just acting as a cold spot. So it's like being in your bed with your duvet over you, but the duvet off your feet. So you're trying to keep the whole of the bed warm, but heat is attracted to cold spots. So where the insulation hadn't been relayed, the cold air was just, sorry, the warm air was just heading for that spot and just going up into the loft and escaping, and that's why they weren't getting much heat retention. And obviously the loft, a simple thing, a loft hatch where you go up into the loft, if you have your loft insulation properly laid out and you think you're still losing heat, it's sometimes because people seem to forget to insulate the loft hatch itself, and this can be quite easily done by either getting some Kingspan or some Celotech or just some normal loft insulation, sticking it in a plastic bag, and then just securing it with a staple gun or something round the underside of your loft hatch, and that would help protect the hatch itself and insulate it a little bit more. So can we just have the next slide, please? So obviously, further talking to the client, we found that heating habits, and that was revealed that in her living room, they had an open flame gas fire, which they like to put on at night because they like the flame effects. But we had to point out to the client that open flame fires are only around 50 to 60% efficient. So a good 50% of your heat that's generated from the fire is just going straight up the chimney, and you're not getting the benefit of that. So they aren't that efficient. So I would only use them in times of need, or it's what you can afford. No one's saying don't use your gas fire if you can afford to use a gas fire and you like it, but just bear in mind the costs associated to them. Can we have the next slide, please?
Hey, sorry to interrupt you before you move on to example 2. I just wondered, well, to Dave and Maria really, and we've got plenty of time at the moment, so I thought I'd do it now if that's all right.
Yep.
We've got a question in the chat which says, I think it's Jane, is it? No, Julian, sorry, has said our loft has been converted into a home office. Is there anything that they can do to improve the, the insulation around that office? Now, clearly, we didn't want to in this webinar to get into retrofit or buildings examples, but is there anything sort of quick and easy that Julian might be able to do?
So if you've changed it's more to do with the retrofit really, because if you're changing your loft into an office and stuff like that, a lot of things need to be done before you start. You need to make sure that you've got the correct loft insulation
in the roof
before you
and the
start
walls.
and board it up. And then obviously you've got to be mindful that in the floor you don't squash the loft insulation that you've already got, because that needs to trap the air to allow it to insulate properly. So you've got to be mindful that you don't squash that down, because it does reduce the effects of the insulation. It depends if they've got drafts up there. It all depends on like the kind of window. I mean, you can try putting some of this plastic covering over the window, the heat seals, and that might just insulate it a little bit more. Or
You need to have a look at it really, wouldn't you?
Yeah, carpet on the floor sometimes helps. But it's more to do with the eaves as well. That's where you usually get the drafts. But in some cases, in lofts, you do need a little bit of ventilation as well to circulate around. So it's one of those, there's no easy, simple answers to that, I'm afraid.
Okay, thanks, Dave. I hope that's answered your question a little bit, Julian. I'll give you a link at the end of this webinar that you can contact Cold to Cozy, and get somebody maybe around to have a visit. I know when we had an office as well, it sounds obvious, but we had a Velux window in that roof space, and it's getting something across, as you say, in that window, isn't it? Like a blind or something that stops the heat going out. So yeah, thanks very much, Dave and Maria. Yeah, Gillian says thank you as well. So we can move on to example 2, if that's all right.
Yeah, so example 2 is a small ground floor, 1-bedroom flat. And the client was looking at ways to save money as his bills seemed high. So obviously he went round to see the client, and during our conversation, he was telling me that he uses a 1.2 kilowatt halogen heater during the day rather than putting his heating on. His ceiling roses in the living room had 100-watt bulbs in, so he had 2 ceiling roses, both with 100-watt bulbs. And on examining his combi boiler to show him the controls, I noticed that both of them were just set to maximum. So on speaking to him about the things that we found, halogen heaters are okay for heating a small area. There's a lot of people have halogen heaters. You can buy them fairly inexpensive from B&M's and all the department stores, but they just heat the small area around you. They're not very good for heating the room. So the client, he was complaining about his living room not being very warm, and had to advise the client that to use his thermostat and his thermostatic valves to control the temperature, which would give him better heat round the room. Now, so thermostatic valves are really fitted to most radiators in your home, and a lot of people think they control the heat of the radiator, but thermostatic valves are actually they take the ambient temperature of the room. So if you're in your living room most of the day, then you can turn the valves down in the bedroom so that if it's on, like say number 1, that would heat that room up to about 10 degrees, and then the thermostatic valve would kick in, and it would just keep that temperature in that room at like 10 degrees. So the rooms that you weren't using during the day, you could turn the thermostatic valve down, and the room that you did use during the day, like your living room, you could set that at, like say, number 3. And so what setting 1 is 10 degrees, setting 2 is roughly 15 degrees, setting 3 is 20 degrees. And you can find that information out just on Google. Just Google what are the settings on my thermostatic valves, and it will tell you. So once we discussed that, we then replaced the 100-watt bulbs that he had in his living room with 2 10-watt bulbs. And even though we replaced these 100-watt bulbs with 10-watt bulbs, there was no difference in light. In fact, he said that the 10-watt bulbs were brighter than his 100-watt bulb. So that just goes to show. And then on the control
That
settings,
was an LED bulb, Dave, was it, that you put in? Yeah.
Sorry, it was a 10-watt LED bulb. Yeah. And he didn't realise that he had, he'd been in for a few years, and they were in when he moved in, and he just presumed that they were, of a low energy. But it just took a quick, simple check, and they were obviously 100 watts. So, we replaced them for him. And then looking at the control settings on the boiler, he had it turned right up full. And the most efficient placing for your boilers are roughly around 65 degrees for the heating and 55 for your hot water. So by turning them down to that, you're making your boiler run at its most efficient. So that's what we did for him as well. Can I have the next slide, please?
So, Dave, can I just clarify on that? Did you encourage him to use his heating and turn off the halogen? His central heating?
I did a little bit, and that was going off. So I explained the costs like on the slide now. So a 1.2 kilowatt heater is at 25p a kilowatt, is 30p an hour, and he had that on for roughly 5 hours a day. So that was like the £1.50 a day times the week was £10.50-ish. So over a month he was paying £45 just for having the heat for his little halogen heater, where that £45 could have been better spent on the heat from the radiator would heat the room, so he'd feel more comfortable with his heating on rather than just a halogen. They're good for short-term use, but long-term use, you're better off with your heating. Again, like say the 2 times 100-watt bulbs, if you had them on for 5 hours, that's 25p, and that worked out at about £7.50 per month. Whereas the 2 10-watt bulbs, that worked out at something like 70 pence for the month for the same period of time. So there was a good £6 saving there just on replacing the bulbs, full stop. Can I have the next slide, please? And then the third example was an old sandstone 2-bedroom cottage with economy 7 storage heaters. And again, the client stated his bills were high. The first thing to do with economy 7 is to make sure that the client is on the right tariff, because sometimes they forget that they're on the economy 7 when they don't use it, and it could be better for them to be on a standard tariff. So it all depends on your usage. It is worth looking into. So what we found was the storage heaters were switched off, which could affect the properties of the house, and the towel rail in the bathroom was on constant because his installer told him that it was a low energy product. But so on talking to him, I was telling him that the property does need heat to help combat damp, mold, and condensation. So it would be advisable to put a little bit of heat into the property, even though it would cost him money. On checking the manufacturing label on the towel rail, that was an astounding 500 watts per hour. So every 2 hours, that was costing him the bit. And because he was on it, can I have the next slide, please? It's easier to explain on the next slide. So because he's on economy 7, his economy 7 was from 12:30 at night to 7:30 in the morning, and that would cost him 15p. But then by having it on during the day, he was paying nearly 30p an hour. So by looking at the examples there, for 7 hours, it was costing him at night 52 pence, but during the day it was costing him £2.55. Now, it was thermostatically controlled so it would kick in and out. So, but it just goes to show that over a period of time, it was costing him a good £50, £60 a month just by having the heater on in his bathroom, and he wondered where it was costing him money. He was saying, "Oh, I've only got me television and me kettle and my air fryer. That's the only 3 things I use." And it was only like, say, when I went into the bathroom and I was like knocked back by the amount of heat that was coming out of the bathroom, that we realised that it was the towel rail which was costing him money. So there's 3 simple examples which, for most people, it just makes you think that your appliances are anything that produces heat, or you need to heat up, are the things that cost you money, and so they're the things to be wary about. And that's it, I think. Is there another one? Nope. So that's my 3 examples. If anyone has any questions.
Thank you very much, Dave. So yeah, if you want to pop questions in, I know that we've had a question about back to the attic roofs actually. Are double glazed Velux skylights in attic roofs efficient insulation?
Yeah, they're designed for attics, so they are obviously, so they are good if they are installed properly. I've been to some that weren't installed properly, and they caused more hassle than what they were worth. And I've seen there someone saying about putting the a thermal blind on them as well will also help retain the heat into the loft space as well.
Okay, great, thank you. So any questions, please just pop them in if you've anything. So we've got here one from Bex. Sorry I missed this, but how does using an electric shower compare to a shower that runs from the hot water tank?
I think electric showers are cost a lot more energy wise than using the hot water tank. Am I right, Dave?
Yeah, I think it's going back to one of our previous slides where they always say have a shower rather than a bath. So as long as you keep your showers to around the 4-minute mark, I think they're better than having an electric shower or a tank. The thing with the tanks is a lot of people. It depends what you use your tank for. Without getting to, if you want to use your tank for mainly having a shower, then you could say, do you need to heat your full tank every morning up to the level, or can you get away with, because most modern tanks have 2/3 at the bottom, which is the main storage, and then they have a booster at the top. So sometimes it's just more cost effective just to heat the boost button and just to heat the top third. And if that can get you away with just having your shower from the top third, then obviously that's going to be more cost effective than using your full tank. But it depends how much you like your showers.
Thank you. So Hugh has made a point actually that he had some Velux thermal blinds and they ended up actually causing condensation on the glass. So so he ended up getting rid of the blinds in the end. So yeah, as David then says, how do you achieve that balance between draft exclusion and beneficial ventilation?
I think most property will always have drafts and ventilation, but if you're looking at sort of some of the newer double glazed units, they come with something called trickle vents. So you can have your trickle vents open to make sure that you've got some air coming in. But it is a balance that has to be achieved. We need ventilation, we need fresh air, but you do need to exclude unnecessary drafts, for instance, like doors and windows, loft hatches, and so on.
Sounds good. The next one is there a quick fix to reduce cold bridges without resorting to major work?
Yeah, I mean, cold bridging is obviously where you've just got the cold spots, and you can sometimes, it depends where the cold bridging's taking place, because sometimes you can get away by laying some. You can get various products out there which, like, say, for under your floor, they all come with reflective backends on them which retain the heat and stuff. But it's worthwhile if you're looking at, so for your walls or some of your walls, sometimes you might need to put thermal boards in, but one of the services which Courtesy run would be the new thermal imaging survey, which might be good if people think they have got cold bridging. The thermal imaging survey can identify where there's cold spots in the house. So that would be my first port of call.
And that's a free service that we're offering at the moment. So if anyone's interested in having that done, give us a shout at Cold Cozy.
Thanks both again. So Jane's made a comment then, most customers save when switching to a water meter. If you have the same or more bedrooms than people, the chances are you can save money. And United Utilities offer a lowest bill guarantee for 2 years. When the meter is read, it is then compared to the rateable value and the customer is billed the lowest amount. Customers can stay on rateable value at the 2-year mark if they want to. Also can save money and energy, all goes hand in hand. So yeah, thank you for that.
We have got lots of energy saving tips on the website as well, so it's worth looking at that. We also have a monthly newsletter that goes out, so if any of you are interested, please register for the newsletter. Oh, we've got a question about the thermal imaging now then. How long is the wait? We've only got until probably the end of February to do thermal imaging surveys, because obviously it's got to be cold for us to do that. So I'd suggest if you go on our website and register for one, we'll get to you as soon as we can. What area are you from, the person that's asking for the thermal imaging survey?
Beetham.
Sorry?
Beetham.
Beetham. We've got quite a lot of volunteers doing the thermal imaging in Beetham, so I would imagine it'd be quite quick, possibly in the next 2 to 3 weeks.
Perfect. Thanks, Maria. So yeah, that's getting in touch with Cold Cozy, isn't it? And I'll give you some contact details. I'll give you some. Alan said hurrah. Yeah, I'll give you some contact details shortly. So yeah, thank you very much for the questions. If you could just keep adding. So Esther has said a thermal imaging survey, which was brilliant, has really helped us to focus. That's fantastic feedback. Thank you. I'm just going to finish off with a few more slides. Do ask any other questions that you've got as I go through these, if anything comes to mind. So what we've got here is the fact that Cold to Cozy can offer these services, a free home visit or an advice call from a qualified advisor. So somebody like Dave will come and visit. And then we can offer free energy saving equipment such as LED bulbs, radiator reflectors, and also draft proofing. We can also offer advice on understanding your energy bill and switching tariffs. And I know that can be a bit of a minefield. There's been some great information on this webinar tonight about Economy 7. We have Economy 7, and it does really take getting your head around sometimes. Especially I know people like Octopus have discounts and various energy ways of charging for energy. So that's great if advice can be provided on that. Advice on heating controls, boiler and radiator settings, advice on smart meters, energy efficiency in terms of your appliances, tackling damp and mold, and also some information about what grants are available. And we've got some links to pop in. Actually, Maria, were you best placed to just talk about the grants? With the notes that you've popped in the bottom of there, would that be okay?
Yeah, we can signpost to grants.
Yeah.
We can talk about people's eligibility for the grants. I think, and Dave can back me up on this, I think Eco4 is the most relevant grant at the moment that can help with loft insulation, solar panels, and other things. So that would be a good starting point, I think. What would you say on that, Dave?
Yeah, so there's 2 or 3 grant itself it's a nightmare field to get your head round, because the goalposts are changing a lot of the time. But the two main grants are, like you say, the Eco4 scheme, which, depending on the EPC of your property and your own circumstances, will depend on whether you qualify for that
Yeah,
kind
I
of
think they're
grant.
means tested, aren't they, Dave?
Yeah. But although the means tested, so the easiest way to get grants in to a fashion is to be either on job seekers allowance, unemployment, universal credit, job seekers allowance, pension credits. But although they are a kind of direct route in, there's what they call local authority flex, which they do three or four routes which are into the grant system for working families. And one is if you've got income less than, I think it's less than 31,000, but it could have went up to 36, I think.
I think it's 36 now.
36.
Yeah.
And then you've got whether the you're in a local authority designated area, where they decide that the housing stock in a certain area would qualify for the grant. The local authority will accept applications from there. There's also Route 3, which is a medical route. So if you've got any kind of cardiovascular or respiratory mobility issues, you can get and you're quite happy to get a note off your doctor to say that you would benefit from a warmer house, as long as you have an EPC of D up,
Or less.
D or less, yeah, sorry, D, E, F, G, then there is routes available for you to get a grant, and some of the grants are good. So for solar power, single frame to double frame windows, room insulation, replacement boiler, upgrade to your economy 7 storage heaters to high output new ones. But the other main grant that people go for is, like, say,
yeah, it's worth looking at them all, isn't it?
It's worth looking at them all. Or, like I say, it's worth getting us round just to kind of discuss them with you, because we can fill the application form in. It's a straightforward application form. There's nothing, fancy about it, but we can fill that in for you, as well as, like, advise you which schemes are open at the moment and which are closed, or we can send you some information in the future for which ones to keep an eye out for that might open, because they change all the time depending on the funding.
There's also other discounts available, such as the Warm Home discount, which is £150 off your energy bill. If you have certain criteria, you can get that directly from your energy supplier. There's also the coal payment scheme, which is something like £25 a week if the temperature stays at 0 or less for seven days. And I think there are currently some Carlisle postcodes that are eligible for that. And our energy advisors also put people onto the priority services register. So they'll check with you, and if you are an older person or less mobile or have a young baby, you're eligible to go onto the priority services register, and that covers water, gas and electric. So we can do that for you during our home visit. So there's a lot of good things to be done during a home visit, and I'm sure Dave will back me up on that. There's a lot more to it. So when we get there, we tend to find that there's other things, you might ring us up about a boiler query, but when we get to the house, we find that there's other things that you need help with, and we're more than happy to do that during the home visit.
Yeah, a lot of the time it's just down to someone else coming into your house and just giving you a different point of view, because people get kind of, I find people get kind of stuck in the ways. They always put the heating on at like a set time, or they always use electric fire in the afternoon and then the heating at night. So it's just kind of someone else having an overview of what they're using and giving them a little bit of advice on, you know, maybe a better way forward. But at the end of the day, you know, it's up to the individual if they want to take that advice, or if they're happy the way they're running their home, then I'm not there to tell them different. And like I say, with the you know, there's some good schemes through United Utilities, as been put in the link, to do with the water meter service. So if you live in a property that's got a high rateable value, then, you know, and there's only a couple of occupants, it is obviously worthwhile thinking about swapping to a water meter. And, you know, the options there last for 2 years, as it's been put in. So, you know, and then you can try the meter and use it as you would over your water consumption as you would over the 2 years, and then at the end of that 2 years you've then got the option to stay on a water meter or revert back to rateable value. So, you know, there's no catches in that. That's just how it is. So it's a good service.
Thank you for that. If there's the contact details there in terms of Cozy Homes, and we will send these slides out, so you will get the links within this presentation, and also the contact details. Next slide, please, Robin. So these are the other webinars that we've got in the Unpacked series. They might be a little bit small, but we've got energy saving at home, farm carbon audits. That's obviously maybe not particularly relevant for this audience here, unless we've got any farmers on there or farm owners on the call. We've then got renovation and retrofit, which we talked about. That would be the sort of more stuff that you're doing with your buildings, the actual fabric of the buildings. Then we've got food waste at home, solar PV, and then electric vehicles. We had a question as well to answer. Can anyone get a cold, cozy free home visit? I'm going to hand that one over to Maria.
Anyone can get free energy saving advice over the telephone. When we call you, we'll go through eligibility criteria, but it's a really broad criteria. It can be anyone on low income or claiming benefits. It can be anyone with a health condition. So from a terminal illness to something as simple as eczema, classes as a health condition, or anyone who's vulnerable. So it could be someone perhaps who's recently bereaved, who says, my partner used to deal with the energy bills and I don't know what I'm doing. So any of those three criteria. So it could be anyone in a family. If you have a young child with asthma or eczema, that family is available for a free home visit. But give us a call and we can whiz through that for you really quickly. And within a fortnight, we can get you a home energy visit with one of our wonderful home energy advisors.
Great, thank you for that. Any further questions? Is there a quick way of identifying the efficiency of double glazed units? Not sure we know an answer to that.
It would have to be a thermal imaging survey, I think.
Great.
Yeah, there was a question on before about, and I think it's been put in the chat as an answer. But the Eco4 funding, there is quite a few installers that are registered with Cumberland Council. So when you get the Eco4 funding, we do a lot of our referrals through a company called Northern Eco, which are based in just over the border in Lancaster. And that is only because we have done due diligence on them, so we know that they are financially secure. But there is a full list from the council which anyone can obtain, and you're quite welcome. If you meet the criteria, you can always make your own approach to any of them companies to sort your Eco4 funding out. And a lot of the time, once you start the process with them, and they're quite happy to accept the job, then they do carry on with some of the kind of the admin side of it for you. So there is quite a few options out there.
Right. So Kim's just said, would you be able to give advice on causes of damp and condensation in bedroom and bathroom, please, and how to fix it?
You'd have to have a look, really. We'd have to do a home visit and see.
Yeah, what I find in, so obviously, if you're in your bathroom, it's all to do with obviously when you have a bath or a shower, you're creating condensation and you're creating moisture. And the best thing to do with that is to then, during the shower or after you've finished with the bathroom, to make sure that you've got the bathroom window open if you've got a window, or make sure that your air vent's working so that you can expel all that moist air out of the room. And if you've got your window open, leave it open for about half an hour so that it totally does vent out the moist air. What I find on the visits when you talk to people, if they live on their own or they just live with the partner, when they leave the bathroom, they always just leave the bathroom door open. So what you're doing there is you're allowing all that moist air to come out of the bathroom and spread round your bedrooms, because at that point in time, the bedrooms are colder than the bathroom. So your air is kind of sucked out and it goes towards the cold spots, and that's why you always end up with like little dots and stuff like that around your ceiling. So when you do leave the bathroom, the best thing to do is try and remember to close the door and leave the door shut. So that's one good tip that I can give you.
And the same goes for kitchens when you're cooking.
Yeah,
Have your
exactly.
window open,
Yeah.
have your vent on, and clean your air vents as well. It's amazing how much dust they gather. So they're not working efficiently.
So the three main causes of moisture and condensation are your kitchen, your washing, drying your washing, or over the radiators or on areas, and obviously your bathroom.
Bathroom. So dehumidifiers help a lot, don't they?
They do help a lot. Yeah, a lot of people who if you're in a flat and you tend to do all your drying in your spare bedroom, then it's sometimes advisable to buy yourself a little dehumidifier, and then you're ensuring that the moist air that's being created by you drying your clothes is absorbed within the dehumidifier rather than round your flat. And just make sure that you look at the cost of running them, because they used to be quite high energy usage items, but over the years they have come down quite a lot now. So you can pick them up where they only run on, like, say, 200 watts. So 200 watts means that you can have it on for 5 hours for the cost of 25p.
What can I do that the ASIP installed in an old house and not warm enough?
Yeah, quite often we find that cold calling companies sell you air source heat pumps for properties that aren't suitable for them, especially older ones, and I'm sure Dave will back me up on this. I was chatting to a lady at an event the other day who had property with an undercroft, the garage below, and they had a perfectly functioning oil boiler, and this company persuaded them to put an air source heat pump in, and she can't keep her house warm now. As a result, the lower levels are warm, but the upstairs where they live is really cold, and that's really down to it being inappropriate for that type of property. So I'm not saying that's the case here. We'd have to really have a look, via a home visit and come up with some suggestions. Unless you can think of anything else, Dave?
So yeah, sorry, I missed that question. Was it just to do with they've got an air source heat pump and it's not
In
sufficient?
an old house and it's not keeping it warm enough.
Yeah. So Yeah, and that's the problem that we see quite a bit at the moment, because the government's pushing air source heat pumps, and because there's a lot more money involved in fitting a heat pump than in other forms of heating. They are fitting them to properties that aren't suitable. So the best thing that you can do is obviously make sure that the EPC, the Energy Performance Certificate, is suitable for an air source heat pump. You probably need a B or a C. So unless the supplier who's going to do your air source heat pump is going to say, yes, we will insulate your walls, or something along those lines, to bring it down to a suitable EPC rating, then I would seek further advice on that before deciding to go ahead, because obviously once you go ahead, it's a bit of a big job to get an air source heat pump put in, because they usually, like Maria said earlier on, have to do a lot of pipe work, and the tank itself for the water is a lot bigger than your normal central heating tank. So you've just got to be wary of which firm you get to do the job.
And as you say, the house has to be super insulated to make it work properly. So yeah, can't help any more than that, I'm afraid.
Okay, well, thank you very much for that. We've just had a question from Kim. Will the retrofit webinar cover alternatives to air source heat pumps as they have an old property? But no, that webinar won't. The retrofit webinar, that would just be renovations to buildings. But we do hope to have a renewables webinar to cover well, not renewables, to cover air source heat pumps and ground source heat pumps. Yeah, just watch our sort of newsletters and the website to see when that's happening. Yeah, that's us done, I think, for the evening. Unless there's anything else. We're coming to the end. So yeah, thank you ever so much for your time this evening. I hope it's been useful. The feedback certainly seems to have said that it is. Do contact the Call to Hosey service, as we mentioned in this sort of final piece here, to get yourself a home visit. We will send the details out in an email to you all with the links and details of how to contact Call to Cozy. Yeah, thanks for your time, and well done, panelists, for our first webinar. So thank you very much, and good evening to everybody.